Hello and welcome to another episode of Educational. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we're a podcast that we started to not only chronicle our journey through aging, but also our parents and not, the situations that come up for them, solutions that we may have. The other thing that we do is we do bring on professionals that are, can help us through the aging process, can help us during the aging process, and maybe even help us uh, age better, do some things earlier in life. And so today, we are blessed to have a couple of guests with us. I'm going to let Terry make the introduction.
Yes, we have a couple of practitioners from Charlotte Active Body Works, formerly Charlotte Reflexology. It's a unique alternative therapy clinic based in South Park of Charlotte, North Carolina. They combine ancient Asian healing systems and modern technology to relieve pain, decrease stress, and help the body to heal. Their methods they use different types of reflexology, meridian therapy, and Qigong. Using the three aspects to healing, diet, exercise, and manual therapy, they work with their clients to not only improve their health, but to enhance their quality of life. I'd like to welcome Yadi Alamin and Joi Abraham to this show. Thank you so much.
Hi, guys. Thank you all for being with us and taking time out of y'all's day. We certainly appreciate it and look forward to talking with y'all.
Glad to be here. Yes, and looking forward to seeing what happens during this conversation.
Right, yeah.
Barking dogs,
yeah,
mispronunciation.
We've had a rough start to this podcast, but thank y'all for hanging with us. And we just want to, kind of get y'all's take. We are interested, in the Asian and Eastern philosophies because I think it's more than just the medicine part. I think it's a general,
Holistic.
Yeah, it's holistic. It's thoughts, how we think and perceive. And,
Sure.
We were talking a little, we had a really good conversation going, and I'm going to kind of jump back in the middle and say that, part of it we were talking about is just the stress of living and making things simpler. We talked about, I had interviewed a guy for a different podcast, and he'd been to another country that lived very much poorer than we do, or what we consider to be poor. But he said the one thing that he noticed is that they were happy beyond belief with their very simple life, and that he was just reflecting upon all the material things that we think that we have to make us happy, which actually can probably add stress and take a lot away from our life in general. So we'll kind of jump back off in there, and Yadi was telling us an awesome story about some banana farmers. So we can pick back up wherever in that conversation that you want to.
Okay. I before I say anything about the banana farmer, I was saying something yesterday on Facebook about how we're very complicated, and we tend to look for like big complicated theories for why we have bad times. Like when we get sick, we blame the medical system. The beginning of Asian medicine starts with a book called The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, or Huangdi Ne Jing. And the first question is, I heard that people used to live over 100 years. Why do they die at 20 and 30 now? And the answer was they lost touch with nature.
Right.
So like even in the story, and my joke was that like we only have conspiracy theories about like bad stuff. Like when we get sick, it's like, oh, it's the medical system. When the weather is bad, we go, oh, they're controlling the weather. But when it's beautiful outside, it's sunny, and there's a nice breeze, we never go, the damn people are controlling the weather. It's only for bad things. But really, it's a disempowering cycle that we just have to take control of ourselves. And what you mentioned about psychological well-being or emotional well-being, physical well-being, these all take a piece of it, and they're equally as important. It doesn't make any sense to be in the shape of your life, but you're depressed all the time.
Right.
Right.
Or,
we were on the simplicity of life, and I think you were talking about the story of the banana farm.
right. So if you've heard this, there's a guy in the Philippines who runs a banana farm, and his cousin from New York is visiting, and he's like eating, he's like eating a banana going, hey, you can make millions selling these bananas. And the guy's like in his hammock, sitting back, like, tell me about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know, we reach out to grocery chains, we give them samples, we set up a distribution, we have planes and trucks all around, and we make millions. And the guy's like, yeah, then what? He's like, well, then we'll make all this money. And he's like, well, yeah, then what? He says, then we can do whatever we want. And the guy's like in the hammock.
With his hat. I think I'm doing that already. No need
Oh my
to go
God.
through that whole cycle without, without all the
Yeah.
stress.
Yeah, and I think in the I'll speak for me, I guess, in the Western world, that we tend to discount the emotional and mental health effects on our body. And I'll let you speak to that, but I'm assuming that, our emotional and our mental well-being, can cause other problems that run throughout our body. I mean, I understand if you fall down a cliff and you break a leg, that's not much you can do about that. But like you said, if you're healthy but you're depressed, then you're still not living your best life.
Right. You
And
would
being
even be
depressed
healthy.
would be a health issue.
Yeah, there'd be a physical part of depression, which usually in Chinese they call that dian quang, which usually means phlegm, heat, or hot phlegm. I said this the other day. Every person I know who's under 30, who's male, who has chronic ADHD or chronic anxiety, depression, is losing their hair. So
Wow.
if you think there's no physical side of the
Depression.
emotions, that's not the holistic view.
A lot of times we've learned that the emotional is physical, is emotional, so they're tied together. So a lot of times a physical ailment might be tied to an emotion that you've been holding on to or did not express, and it became physical. At the time when it becomes physical, you're going to have to go through the body in order to release the physical ailment and the emotional imbalance as well. You can't just go through the emotion. So
There's that line of thinking is like, if I just make myself happy artificially, then I'll just heal, and it doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah.
No. And
No.
I feel like the older I get, the more I'm being knocked in the head with that brick, saying exactly that. It's like there are underlying issues here. You've got to dig deep and you got to deal with them. You've been pushing them away, just anything, everything, not just the emotional.
Well, like Roy said, like if you fall and break a leg, obviously it's not because you're not, accepting the anger you have. It's because you fell and broke your leg. But
Right.
you may have frustration when you couldn't move, when you were healing from a broken leg. That now when you're moving, every move sets off that same chain of chemicals that you feel when you get angry, and it's like a chronic association with pain that you get angry every time you have pain. So not only is it pain, but it's also distress, which is a waste of energy, which ultimately ends up becoming a very complicated pattern in people.
Mhm.
And if you can do something physical and you can sort of get people to see how much energy they're wasting. One of the clients I had, she was 49, I think. She had terminal cancer, and her husband cheated on her while she was going through the oncology. And if you can imagine being scared to die, not like acutely, like there's, someone is chasing me, but every day you wake up like, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. And then this person you love betrays you. Her disease went so far off the deep end into, her numbers, which were coming up and she was normalizing, just went off the deep end. There's no denying that when you're heartbroken, or when you have residual anger, or you have fear, or you have anxiety, that it's using physical energy that you would need to heal or you would need to function. It's just not an efficient management of your energy. If you watch a horror movie, can you do deep breathing while you're watching a horror movie? Well, the music is like, like some of us
hyperventilate.
That's true.
Some of us are a living horror movie. Like we had as a kid, we were in the military, we never dealt with it.
That's true.
Yeah, and my dad was in the military, so I never dealt with it. He never dealt with it. I mean, oh my gosh, So many things.
So the beginning of the beginning of change is just understanding that it's the process. It's not the thing itself that needs to change. If you have an infection like a cold or a flu, your body would get rid of it if it had enough energy. But if it's burning itself out because you have some kind of physical ailment and you have the emotional on top of it, your immune system may not get what it needs because you're using it just to, feel your emotion. I don't know if that makes sense, but everything requires energy.
Right, right. Yeah, we take away our energy that our body was meant to fight off diseases, and we've got them placed. And I guess that kind of leads into a couple things. Is first off is sleep. Is that we need to get enough sleep every night to repair our bodies and let it have time to heal. And sometimes that if you're not feeling well, if you have a physical ailment or anything else, it may be longer than that recommended time. I think we have to listen to our bodies to know how much time we need. In anyway, that's something that we're working on because the preparing for sleep, sometimes it's not just that's the time that you feel like you have your eyes closed, but it's that preparing for it. So we make sure we have a restful sleep, and we make sure that we sleep for 8 hours. And that's in the bed. I think and I'm gonna let you answer this. This is more of a question, but we need to do this. We need to have that, I think they call it their circadian rhythm, that we need to get into, where we're trying to get in bed at the same time, we're trying to get up at the same time, and
Going through the same ritual,
Yeah.
like the reading or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you need to do, and not being on the phone, which I just busted myself because I knew that's where he was heading. The blue light's bad for me, and I need to read. Sorry, finish your question.
No. That was kind of where I was going. Is that sleep is probably going to be, one of the bigger things that we need to tend to, or how that we can help ourselves to heal and to actually lead to wellness.
There are 3 pieces to figuring out if you're healthy. One of them is, can you fall asleep? When you wake up, do you have energy? When you eat, do you feel energized? And do you have energy during the day? Those are kind of the 3 factors. Can you sleep? Do you feel energized when you wake up? Can you eat? And do you have energy during the day? And this thing, energy, is kind of, it's a really vague description. But think of it this way. I sleep maybe 5-6 hours a night. Why? Because I know Qigong, because I know my body. I keep myself very regular. But if you're the type of person who doesn't function well on 5-6 hours of sleep, you need more sleep than that. And there are different constitutions, like Joi and I are built differently.
Yes.
We have a different, gait, different set of constitutional strengths. She's stronger in her water organs, like her kidney and bladder would be stronger based on her type. And for me, it's lung. So I have good breathing during the day, and she tends to get heavy during the day, and she needs, like, water needs to sink. And lung is basically metal, and metal can be sharp either direction, but it's kind of the type that will dictate what you need to do. Most people need to go to sleep at 10 p.m. Need to, get about 7-8 hours of sleep, but that's not everybody.
Right.
There's a lot that's associated with sleep, and I've noticed that a lot of times people don't even give themselves permission to go to sleep. Their mind is always going. There's something else they have to do. They're thinking about what they have to do for their children or what's coming up the next day. Like, they don't ever give their brain a time to turn off. And
Right.
that is part of sleep. Like, preparing to go to sleep also includes, getting that to-do list done, doing what you need to do in order to feel like your brain can relax so that you can actually fall asleep. If you still have all of those things going in your head, you're going to have a really hard time. So that should be part of your preparation, is making sure your brain can turn off so that you can get the sleep that you need.
Yeah.
So there's a secret. There's a secret, because it's a very logical discussion, right? We need X amount of hours of sleep. But the secret is that you can get the same kind of rest and restoration without sleep. That's
Okay.
the secret. So, at the top of the show, you mentioned Qigong. 21 years ago, I was 117 pounds. I was doing all organic food and I was sleeping maybe 7-8 hours a day, and I kept getting sicker.
Yeah.
I got off my medications that I was given for an acute disease, which was, we talked about this on a different broadcast.
Yeah.
The thing is, I wasn't healing no matter how much sleep I got. And I was introduced to Qigong as a standing exercise where you're standing, mine was 45 minutes where I'm standing in a horse stance with my arms like this to create that open circuit from my heart to my hands, from my nervous system to my fingers. And not even having that much of an explanation, guys. Like, I just did the work that my teacher told me, and within 3 to 4 months, I was gaining weight. It wasn't my diet, it wasn't my sleep. The secret is there's a state in between waking and sleeping. Some people call it the theta brain or the alpha state. And that's what happens during this Qigong exercise, where it's technically where you're breathing as slowly as when you sleep and your mind is undisturbed, like when you're sleeping, but you're actually awake. That's the secret that, a lot of people will hear it and say, well, I don't want to do Qigong. It's raising my arms and floating like some kind of animal. But the secret is I can work 19 hours a day and not need as much sleep as somebody. And I'm 45 years old, been doing this 21 years. And the aging thing doesn't seem to be, killing me like it's killing a lot of folks in this age group.
Both of us we aged prematurely at one point, and then we turned it around so we could reverse that. So we both aged at a younger age than we thought we should have been. So using some of the things that he's talked about, we have, changed that trajectory, and we've been able to change our bodies to be younger.
You know how you go on social media and you see like the person at 20 and then they show them at 60 and they're all fit and pumped up and you look at them. I'm looking at the face. Are your eyes sunken and dark? What's the condition of your internal organs? Because being physically fit is very cosmetic. You have nice looking, shape, but your organs are still just as old and festering. Sorry to put it that way, as they have been. And we're saying that you can literally sleep standing up. There's a way to do it, and it has just as many restorative effects as sleep.
Okay. So now when you do Qigong, are you kind of not only in a physical pose, but are you kind of like meditate? Do you have to clear your mind and kind of keep it clear and do, I guess, more of a meditation while you do that?
It's a really good question. You're just trying to focus on what you feel in your body. So instead of thinking, hey, be quiet, be still, you're just saying, am I grounded? Am I 50-50 on both feet? Am I 70-30 on both feet? Is the top of my head up? Is my chin drawn back? Do I have a ping pong space in my armpits? All of these little mechanics. Okay. And there's no way your mind is going to go to like the Flintstones theme music, or you can't think about anything else. And some of these things hurt. So you're not going to get distracted.
Yeah. And you have Qigong classes, don't you? Virtual Qigong classes or in
virtual
person?
Now, we've taught in person here for 8 years, like literally hundreds of classes. I have a huge library of Qigong. But yeah, the best way to learn is in person. Like if you can take 6 months to go once a week and just train for an hour, you'll really get a sense of what's supposed to happen. It's almost like if you take a tuning fork while a bunch of kids are playing piano and somebody plays the right note, everyone starts playing in the right key. Whereas if you just let the kids watch YouTube and figure out how to play piano, it all sounds like chopsticks, But it's good to do it in person.
Yeah, it's preferable to do it in person, but if you can't, for example, if you live somewhere remotely or you can't travel for whatever reason, you can get some quality instruction online. And that is part of why we created the library that we have, so that we can get people introduced to this type of exercise And then, you know, if they want further instruction one-on-one, that can be arranged. You know, we can get that.
Okay. So
for a-
what about people that can't stand or maybe in a wheelchair? Is there any value to them still doing it without actually being able to physically stand?
Okay, so we're all sitting right now, right?
Yeah.
Unless we're squatting on something. Very Asian thing to go squat. Well, let's all do something together if it's okay. We won't
Yes.
have to, you don't have to be quiet. You don't have to meditate. All I want you to do is take your elbows, right, and keep them close to your ribs. And this is just like you're doing an uppercut punch. Just massage the rib cage lightly, just with chafing, just dragging it over the rib cage, almost like you're doing uppercut punches. And you'll feel a little bit of warmth across both sides of the ribs. So here's the Qigong part. Inhale, take a breath in through your nose, and then exhale out of your mouth. Keep doing what you're doing. And as you do it, you'll start to feel the expansion of your lungs when you inhale and the contraction as you exhale. Your whole body warms up, which is very important if you can't move around to get good blood circulation. That's all like a minute, right?
Less.
Is anybody cold?
No. No, that was great.
I'm starting a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good
Wow.
massage for the liver and gallbladder, the spleen and stomach. It also helps slow your breathing down and make you more aware of your internal body. So just something like that as an example. Yeah, anyone can do Qigong.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, and the breathing is another great thing to talk about. And because I know myself, I used to I had this list above my desk of things to do, and one of them was breathe. And people would always be like, oh, you got to tell yourself to breathe. I'm like, no, I need to remind myself to breathe properly because it doesn't have to be stress, but it can be intense. Like I was working on a project yesterday with a spreadsheet and some graphics, and I found myself tensed up, not breathing. And, I just have to step back and say, breathe, but then also to take those deep breaths, conscious breaths in and out. So is there, and my thing is, I guess it just gets more oxygen, but I'll let y'all explain about the value of the deeper, proper breathing.
It's just the exchange of gases. Like there's CO2 and there's O2. The quality of your breathing can be measured by how long you can hold the breath out after an exhale. So we can try that. Like if
Okay.
inhale, take a
I
breath in,
like that exercise.
and then exhale. Get it all the way out, all the way out. Now don't inhale yet, and let's count to 30 mentally.
I gave up. 15.
Okay.
I made it to 17, so.
Okay. So as you felt the need to breathe, what emotions came up?
Not quite well, I don't know how to describe it. More anxious, like, okay, I really need to take a breath.
I need to breathe.
Yeah.
I'm drowning.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So a lot of times, Roy, to figure out how to breathe properly means you have to understand what your underlying interest is. If you don't feel like you have enough air, and it's really not the case, you have plenty of oxygen, you could hold your breath for several minutes like deep sea divers do if you train yourself that way. But what's happening is there's a lot of anxiety attached to breathing. When you breathe out, that's when the diaphragm relaxes. The more relaxed the muscle is, the more it can tense. So if you can get a long hold, the next time you inhale, you'll get saturated with that oxygen, even if it's a 3-second breath. It doesn't have to be very long. But it's kind of counterintuitive as far as breathing. But the idea is that you take time and allow the oxygen to saturate you and allow time to get the carbon dioxide out. Instead of, focus on a deep inhale, which everyone does. And they do this thing too, which is not a deep breath. It's kind of just a shoulder shrug.
Kind of shortens the diaphragm.
But yeah, more so focusing on what you get rid of, which is very Eastern. There's always, when you have a disease, it's always what can you get rid of, not what can you add to.
Okay.
You know, if you have cancer, for example, that's a growth of something that's abnormal. So if you start thinking, oh, I have cancer, time for me to take organic honey, raw honey, time for me to take astaxanthin, I'm going to take Essiac tea, whatever it is, maybe that's not what you need to do. Maybe it's time to start cutting things out. Like, for example,
Interesting.
I need to breathe less during a minute. Maybe focus on breathing 3 times a minute instead of taking a huge breath. Maybe focus on when I eat, instead of trying to pack all the nutrients in, eat enough for my body to feel satisfied, but not overwhelmed. It's more about, and believe it or not, you hit a good point, because breathing is something we do all the time. It really teaches you about yourself.
That's true.
You know, going back to ADHD and anxiety, most of the people I know who have that have very short and sharp breathing. You know, they constantly have congestion, so they have to breathe sharply to clear the airway. And when I tell them, hey, hold the breath out, they go, and you can just really see what a person's like on the inside.
Are you just like ADHD? ADHD.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I'm the same way. I just, you know, those short breaths, probably too much, taking a lot of them like that. So that's interesting that there's a correlation between that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, if you have ADHD, not jumping in, like if you have ADHD and you're holding the breath out, you don't have any other thoughts at that point to breathe.
Right.
So that's a real meditation. Like everything has left me except for one single thought.
Yeah, just to take that next breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm not thinking about the ceiling or my fidget spinner or whatever. I'm like, okay, when do I get to?
Where's the next one?
No, that's a good point, because that, you know, that's what I was thinking that whole time too. So that may, you know, because when I try to meditate, I have trouble turning it off, and I'm always trying to redirect to, you know, focus on the breathing in and out and just how I'm feeling. But that may be something I'll try next time, is just to go ahead and exhale, get it out, and then that way I'll have one thought on my mind.
Yeah, with breathing, you do it all day, so it's not like you can forget.
Yeah, right. So as we grow, we have more and more body aches for many reasons, but you know, people become where they don't get around as quickly. Our balance leaves. You know, what are some things that we can take away from the traditional Eastern medicine that can help us with those things?
So can I tell you guys another secret?
Yeah, sure.
This is where tradition meets technology. This is a 2021 answer to your question.
Okay.
If you look up the word qi as in Qigong, or qi as in acupuncture, you know, moving the qi, the word qi literally means air, right? And it wasn't that scientific. We didn't think of air as nitrogen or oxygen or whatever. It was just the breath. There's something that's kind of new. It's been around Asia for about 10, 11 years, which would help with everyone's aches and pains. And it uses breathing. You know where I'm going?
I think so.
Talking about molecular hydrogen.
Yeah.
So we started talking about the pandemic, which it's impossible for you to miss. There's a pandemic worldwide. If you look at the number of deaths in Japan, you look at the number of deaths in Korea, and even Wuhan, China started using the technology about 2 months in. They put people on hydrogen gas inhalation instead of the ventilators. This is H2 gas, which the generators are very inexpensive compared to a ventilator. Ventilators $80,000. These are probably 2,000.
Yeah.
But they're all over Asia, and even the elderly people. Japan has the most centurions, like they have the most 100-year-olds out of any country, and their death numbers were like nothing, because a lot of them breathe hydrogen, or they drink the hydrogen infused water. And hydrogen has a way of stopping inflammation, which creates pain, which creates every other disease that's related to inflammation: arthritis, bursitis, tendinitis, right?
Yeah.
All of the inflammatory conditions. If you look up molecular hydrogen, that's the reason we were able to reopen during the pandemic, is we just we got the message from the head of pulmonology in Wuhan, Dr. Nanshan Zhong, back in March on the BBC network. And he said, yeah, we're using hydrogen and people are being released in 3 hours, not a week.
Not a week.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I put all my patients on hydrogen when they come in. I do my body work on hydrogen. If you can't be here, look up molecular hydrogen, or we have a site that I think is.
It's called Cellular Hydrogen.
It's not the answer to all your health questions, but it's the answer to inflammation, to chronic aches and pain. Even I have a lady that couldn't sleep for about 5 years. I put the tube in her nose. She fell asleep for the first time that night. She slept. It answers a lot of health problems, but the thing is, it's accessible and anyone can get it. It's basically considered an inert gas. There's about 10 years of scientific research, and it does have a correlation to chi, breath.
It does. And, you know, we've had our own experience with hydrogen therapy, and Yadi has actually been working with hydrogen for many, many years. And so when we heard about this therapy that they were doing in China, we said, well, we have already been doing that for several years, so we understand the process and can help other people to do this as well. So
Okay.
that's where we come from when we do hydrogen. When we started inhalation, we have a couple of stories about how it changed our lives as well.
The guy that introduced me to it was 88. This is back in 2004, and he was still working in his garden.
He was 88 then when he introduced.
He's
me
still
to it.
alive now.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
so, and that was 04.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to think, I watch what older people do. I didn't even know it was hydrogen in the beginning because it was just a weird device that I bought for $100. Now they're much better made and technology has improved. But yeah, please, if you don't remember anything else, look up molecular hydrogen. There's water tablets on Amazon that has nothing to do with me. It's not anything I sell. There's bottled water with hydrogen in it. There are a bunch of different companies, but if you're looking for something to help you throughout your day, you can't get to my office, you don't want to learn Qigong, this is my way. This is it's like the free, it's the free information that you got here that might change your life.
Okay. You know, it's funny because we were just talking about that the other day. Terry was asking about some hydrogenated water.
That was the only water that was available to us. It was like a case of hydrogenated water. I'm like,
what an
I
amazing
should have
gift.
gotten it. It was
Yeah.
gone by the time.
Yeah, hydrogen water is pretty awesome.
Joy,
Okay.
Joy used to walk with a cane.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she was able to walk again. I think we told that story on a different podcast.
Yeah.
You know, she had a lot of trouble getting through the day. She had a lot of weakness and a lot of fatigue. And one day it was a high smog day, high ground level ozone day.
Yeah, we had some wildfires from the mountains come to Charlotte, and that's not something that we have in this area. So when that happened, the air quality was terrible, and I already had weak lungs, so the oxygen that I was able to get was very low. And I have never ever, even though I have been a flight attendant and have gone in low oxygen spaces, I've never had any cases of hypoxia. But that one day I did.
She almost fell on the floor in Office Depot. She had a credit card in her hand and I was looking for an excuse to pull the trigger on buying this $3,000 machine. They cost less now, but at the time it was $3,000. And when you see somebody you care about that's in pain or struggling, you just forget money, forget whatever. I bought the machine. She went from being able to work 1 hour a day to working 8 hours a day with no fatigue, no problems. And like,
Wow.
it's not anything else. It's not the diet. It's not even the exercise.
That was just the hydrogen that we changed. And it made a
That was the only
huge
change.
difference. You know,
Okay.
our own aging parents also do hydrogen. And it's helped my father tremendously. He's had high blood pressure. He's had pre-diabetes and dermatitis. And the first thing that we did was put him on hydrogen therapy. And I remember he was on it for only 2 weeks, and he would do inhalation for an hour a day. And he was out there mowing grass.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
They was out there mowing, and no loss of energy or anything.
If you go back 45 years, there's an experiment in a hyperbaric hydrogen chamber for late stage cancer, and they were 50% successful in reversing terminal cancer. 1975, you have to search that in Google, but there's an abstract experiment it's as old as I am. So it's not anything new. It's just now we can get it at home.
And we can get it at a price that's a little bit more affordable for a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Well, we'll check that out.
Yeah.
We'll definitely check that out. One thing we touched on a little bit, I just will kind of hit for a wrap up, is our diet. I know that's, they're as important as our sleep and our breathing and everything else. So we could touch on diet for just a minute.
Yeah. You have to eat what fits your body constitution. You can't, there's no such thing as a healthy diet. Too many people will go and say, well, I got cancer, but everything I eat is healthy. Well, maybe not for you. Like half of the world is a yin type. Your body is cold, your body tends to be heavier, and half of the world is yang, where you're more dynamic, you're more active, you're hotter by nature. And each one of us has a different set of foods that fit our natural constitution. So if you know your constitution, you can eat accordingly to what fits you. I think, as a general thing with diet, you have to stay away from, shotgun advice. Like everyone should take this vitamin, everyone should take this thing. You're going to end up in a place where you have expectations, but there's no results.
And then that's when people get upset because they said, oh, this is what it was going to do for me, and it didn't do that for me.
Right.
So they say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't necessarily work for your type. And you have to find the things that work for you.
Even when people say drink water, people go, well, water with lemon, water with, alkaline waters, and that's also based on your constitution. So what was the other big thing was turmeric. Take turmeric. Turmeric that's not good if you have a hot nature because it's a hot plant. Take garlic, also a hot plant. It makes some guys like garlic has an impact on the sex hormones. It's forbidden in certain Eastern cultures that preach abstinence. So if you have if you're trying to amplify your libido, garlic might be the thing for you if you're not too hot natured. But it's good to know what your constitution is. The foods I eat work for me, but they're nothing like Joi's diet.
And we went through years where we ate according to whatever the new health information was. Right. And we feel terrible and not understand why. And that is part of the problem. You eat these things and somebody else suggested it. Oh, work great for me. But if you don't know your type, you're going to waste a lot of time.
There's juicing, like people, drinking.
That's terrible for me.
Yeah. Juicing, if you have, if you don't get a certain amount of fiber, juicing is poison.
Yeah. Salads, everybody's like, oh, eat a salad, it's healthy. Salads are terrible for me. And I hated them.
It's too cold.
And I didn't understand why. I hated eating salad. If I warmed it, it was a little bit better. But now I understand that my body cannot handle a whole lot of cold, raw food. It doesn't.
Interesting. So how do we determine our if we're hot or cold?
Well, the shortest answer is to contact somebody who knows. That'll save you a lot of time. There's also a book called Your Yin Yang Body Type by Gary Wagner, which if you can get through the book, it's a little bit long.
And it's kind of technical, but it does have some very good information.
Oh yeah, there's an exam, like a questionnaire you can fill out, figure out what your body type is. Probably the easiest thing is to contact us. We'll give you an answer in less than a half an hour.
Okay.
Not as a plug, but I'm just saying there aren't a lot of people doing constitutional assessment like that. A lot of people will say, oh, you have arthritis, eat this. And it's the same advice for everyone. Oh, turmeric's not working, take black pepper with the turmeric. It's not very specific.
It's so interesting that
right.
In addition to the hydrogen, targeting and working with your body type improved my health twofold. And those two things really made a huge difference in my energy levels, my digestion, and sleep.
I will say this, but as a general, we eat way too much and too often. I eat two meals a day, and I have for like 17 years.
Okay.
There was an article today that said there's really no reason to eat 3 meals a day. I saw it somewhere on Apple News or something, but
Okay.
I thought that was interesting that they are doing that now.
And
Yeah.
so do you snack at all? I'm thinking 2 meals, that's all.
I don't know.
No snack?
No, after 12 hours, your body starts making the things that you want. That's the reason you don't age. There were these guys that trained me. They used to wake up at 6 a.m. They would eat 6 a.m. and eat at 6 p.m. Nothing in between. They were 50 and 60 years old. They were huge, muscle bound. You know, a lot of them had no gray hair. And it's that space in between meals that really gives the body time to absorb what you ate.
Yeah. Also in the Neijing, the book that we had talked about earlier, it says one of the reasons that we age more quickly is because we eat too much and we drink.
You know, and that's interesting because we, you know, on our other program, we had a guest that we talked a little bit about fasting with, or we haven't aired it yet, but we talked to them. And, you know, that's the message that came out is this, you know, eat 5 times a day, small meals is probably more detrimental than, you know, this fasting and the intermittent. And basically what you know, if you eat at 6 and 6, you're fasting, you know, twice a day almost, but it gives our body a chance to repair, digest. And so yeah, it's interesting, very interesting. And so when you do eat, kind of, do you just eat like normal portion sizes, just, you know, like a little protein, a little vegetables? And
Yeah, you have to have the fats, the proteins, the vegetables. They should have a good balanced diet. I do a lot of sea vegetables, like a lot of seaweeds and things like that, because they have high mineral content, which is good for me. Wouldn't probably be good for her.
I don't think, you don't like green things, do you? You like green things? Salad.
But I like them to be warm.
Ah, okay.
So raw is not that great, but warm is wonderful.
Warm is good.
Okay.
In fact, my father says that I feed him too many vegetables. So I do like them, and I do like cooking.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely make sure you get a fair amount of every kind of nutrient. You know, and just as a general thing, fruit may not be the most healthy thing. Like fruit may be something you want to reduce in your diet. Those fructose sugars are really hard on your liver.
And there's an interesting fact. The liver is the only organ that can actually break down fructose. It's the same with alcohol. So the liver can break both of those down, but it usually has a hard time with them at the same time, especially.
So you have to make a decision, like, do you want cherries?
Or do you want scotch?
That's what I was gonna say. Don't have any fruity, so
no more appletinis.
So mango margarita is really doing double duty.
I just love seeing the crap people eat. Where they'll have like a burger and 2 donuts. Like,
yeah,
how are you still alive? Like,
yeah,
oh
right.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Someone who's had some kind of liver damage will eat a lot of fruit, and their body is really having a hard time with that.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's great information. Again, we thank you guys for stopping by and talking to us. It's always enlightening and enjoyable speaking with y'all. And you've given us some things to think about on the hydrogen, and then also this eating. That's interesting.
Breathing for sure.
So why don't y'all do this? Tell us how people can reach out and get a hold of you. You know, who are the clients that you can work with, and then you know, what can you do for them? I know that y'all have some, you know, it's better if they're there in North Carolina, y'all can do on-site, but if they happen to be across the U.S., how can they reach out and interact with y'all over the internet?
Joy's got something to say.
Yeah.
I was just going to say we do have online consultations, and if you get to our website, Charlotte Acu Bodywork, so that's Charlotte ACUBODYWORK.com. You'll find out there, and then you can book an online consultation.
Yep. And if you're interested in a hydrogen machine, it's cellularhydrogen.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we certainly do appreciate
Oh my
it.
gosh.
What?
No, I was just gonna say, this is awesome.
Yep.
Roy needs an appointment. He'll do it online.
I can tell I'm
got all the
signing
info.
up. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Of course, y'all can always find us at www.ageducational.com on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Also, this copy of this will go up on YouTube as video, so you can look in at the interview as we did it. And until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.